Hello there, I'm Gargi Raut, and today I'm with someone who has defined Indian sport. Be it with his contributions as an athlete to then producing Olympic medalists and world-class badminton players and driving some powerful conversations, his contributions in Indian sport have been impossible to ignore. Pullela Gopichand. Gopi Sir, we spoke last time, around similar time in March last year. Since then, how has life evolved? How's the academy looking? How is everything?
I think it's been great. I think the last year has been good for me. It's been good for the academy. Overall, Indian badminton was a little down, but the last few months things have been very positive. So looks good, and we've had some new ideas, new improvements at the academy. We have our center adding few more facilities, so things have been looking good. I've always been somebody who's been positive, and very happy with the government's approach to sport. They've done some phenomenal work, and I'm very positive going for the future of Indian sport.
Like you said, Indian badminton in the past couple of months has had an upturn, thankfully. And with the Asian Games fast approaching, especially when you talk about someone like Lakshya, who's possibly played the game of his life. All England, that semi-final was brilliant. How are you looking at him? How are you looking at him going into the Asian Games?
Well, I think the All England was a phenomenal performance. It's unfortunate that he missed out on winning. I do believe that had he won that game, he had enough fire in him to win the third game as well at the finals. But having said that, I think who he lost to was not a mean player, and the quality of the finals was phenomenally good. Having said that, I think definitely will be a match, will be a tournament to watch at the Asian Games. For us, Asian Games is going to be tough. It's going to be venues which are typically slow, big courts. The good thing is what we saw Laksh at the All England was on a slow, physically demanding court that he did these performances. In some sense, that's what you will get at the Asian Games and probably at the Olympics and stuff. So I'm very hopeful, very happy with the progress, and hopeful of a good performance, of definitely a big medal performance at the Asian Games.
Another positive has been obviously Sachi going back to top 5. And how are you looking at their performance? All England, they had to concede, but...
Yeah, I think... last year was a fantastic year. Yeah. I think consistent semi-finals. I think 7 semi-finals back to back, and then the finals and the wins. I think overall, from where they were at the beginning of the year, close to about 18 or 19 in the world ranking, to get to the top 5 was remarkably quick. Having said that, I think a lot of nations are starting to do well. There are a lot of players for whom they've been the targets, and it's also time for them to kind of come together with a plan B and start winning. So both phenomenal athletes, hard hitters. Very rarely do you find a combination which has 2 players who can play net and also play back of the court. And yes, and with the experience they are having, I think they're almost close to about 8-10 years at the highest level. So I'm hopeful that they as a pair, they as a team, India as a team, I think has some good performances waiting for us at the World Championships in Delhi, and also the Asian Games and the Thomas Cup in the next few months. So I think all 3 big events, Thomas Cup, World Championship, Asian Games, and I'm very hopeful of some good performances.
Some other names, Gayatri and Teresa and PV Sindhu, they have felt the ebbs and flows of the game recently. But how are you looking at their performance? Gayatri and Teresa, is there an injury concern there?
Yes, I think we've had Gayatri injured for a while, and then she's come back, and this time Teresa had a freak fall on court at the All England, which actually resulted in her pulling out from the Swiss. Having said that, I think just previously in the 300 they won in Lucknow was a good performance. So, and whatever matches, even at the All England they lost, or the India Open, they were all close matches, which were 21-18, 21-19 in the third set. So they're losing some close matches. I think no concerns about the way they're playing, but yeah, they need to play a few more matches to get used to that, and I'm sure they're not far from winning. The same I think with Sindhu. Sindhu's had some good wins. The players whom she's lost to have been the absolute top players, and she's climbed up the rankings as well. So I'm hopeful that we'll have some good performances for her coming through.
And overall perspective for the Asian Games, how are you looking at India's momentum going forward? Medal expectations. How are you looking at this particular cycle? How positive are you?
I think Laksh, Satwik, we have Ayush. I think three players who've really been doing well.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think if you can Shrikant, Pranoy, Tarun, Arun George, I think for five of these players in the men's singles actually make us a strong men's singles top 3, top 4 names against anybody in the world. So that's a positive. Satwik-Chirag are big. They have chances to pull through against the best. And I'm saying whether it's China or Chinese Taipei, or whether it's Japan or Malaysia, Indonesia, we have chances against the top tier teams. Mm-hmm. So very positive. We could actually go out there and win against the big names and get us that big medals. Yes, I think individually also it's the case. And definitely whether it's Sindhu or whether it's Tanisha and Dhruv, or whether it's Gayatri and Teresa, I do believe that all it takes is those 2 big matches, and they've done it in the past, and we have chances. So I'm positive about the overall structure of the team, and yes, they're probably women's. We've had our challenges in the overall team strength, but we've got a bunch of young players in the women's singles who are there and who can pull out those. So we won the BAC, the Badminton Asia Championships, in the last edition, and with a young team which came out of nowhere, and then we won. So a surprise is not difficult, because when you look at the top names, Japan doesn't have the same depth as it used to have. We've had Okuharas and Yamaguchis, not really consistent and there. China is strong, but they've also had their ups and downs. Their doubles are a lot more stronger than their singles are. The same could be said about other players in other countries, apart from, of course, Ansi Young. We've had Thailand doesn't have the same depth or consistency which it used to have. So Indonesia, Malaysia doesn't have the same. So I think women's singles has their chances. So I think we could go in and give us a surprise in the women's format as well. So it's kind of every country is having those challenges on the women's side at the highest level. But overall, very positive, exciting times. The government support, the overall aspiration for the country, the push for sport is phenomenal. So I'm very hopeful that we will get some good results.
Which was leading me to my next question, because for the longest time the discourse has been, you don't have your next single star. You don't have another PV Sindhu or an HS Pranoy coming up the ranks. But that's been somewhat proven wrong with Ayush coming up, with Tanvi coming up. What are your thoughts? Who do you see as the next star? Have you identified someone?
I think world over it's been a challenge, in the sense Europe doesn't have a player after, say, Marin. There's nobody from Spain. Denmark doesn't have a player for a longer time. They haven't produced a champion after Tina Rasmussen for many, many years. We've had countries like Netherlands would have a player, Germany would have a player, England would have a player. We don't have. So it's becoming challenging for many countries to produce those level of players. Even Indonesia and Malaysia or Korea after NC Young doesn't have those names which you get. So every country, I think, goes through a phase like this. But when you look at the players, whether it's Unnati or whether it's Tanvi or whether it's Rakshita or Devika, I think we've got a bunch of players in that group who are there, and I think one of them is better today. There's somebody else is better the next day kinds, and you could see them knock off top players very often. It just needs consistency. It just needs fitness and injury-less sport for a while, and a bit of structured in the planning part, which I think is a little messed up at the moment. And if we actually can sort that bit out, I don't think from a talent perspective, I would say Indian badminton, I would be very excited about Indian badminton players than anybody else in the rest of the world, because I see a huge opportunity in the whole women's singles segment available to be taken. Because Yamaguchi, Okuhara, Ratchanok, Michelle Lee, Biving Zhang, they're not getting younger. I think the lack of any top player from China, pronouncedly Indonesia, Malaysia, Denmark or Spain or Europe in some sense. So I think there is a vacuum out there which needs to be filled up, and I see a bunch of them from India who have the potential to do it. I just hope that we're able to make that next step.
And when we talk about the sport and its commercial success, because badminton is still very much not there, there is a dedicated fan base, but how does badminton get to the next level? We are hearing that the Badminton League will start again after the Asian Games, but do you think that's the way to go?
I think at various levels, security or some structure which gives a commercial identity to the entire ecosystem is needed. And the world body has a certain structure and a program which is a tough program, and say I would not be endorsing of it the greatest, because players need to travel quite a bit. I would look at something like a league format which makes it commercially viable, commercially interesting for players to actually earn more money.
PBL.
And more PBL kind of a thing, where it's interesting for team owners, it's interesting for fans to build rivalries, to get a team environment. So those kind of things are very interesting. So I think we need to, because when you look at the sport, when you looked at the All England, I think it's exciting. Like, it's not only for me, like a badminton, I think I just love the kind of energy which is there, and the kind of excitement. I think I just feel that we need to kind of bring people who've never experienced the sport come to the sport, and I think to produce champions is one of the easiest ways. And since we have such a big bunch of players doing well, I think to have our own leagues and our own structures would be important.
And I can tell you that I was at the World Cup final in Ahmedabad when Lakshya Sen was playing his final, and all of us in the media box were actually hooked onto, while the match is happening, the cricket match is happening, we were hooked onto Lakshya's match. So that's how it is. It's not as if the excitement isn't there. It's just about maximizing it. And final question, more on a personal note, your academy's been doing brilliantly well. And I want to ask you from a perspective of someone who's played sport, when someone, a young girl or a boy as well, enters your academy, obviously their parents must be thinking of medals, Olympic, Asian Games, all of that. But what are you looking to provide them?
Well, I think people come with an aspiration.
Yeah.
And the reality of sport is that not everybody is going to be a medal winner. So I think personally it's very important that the mental health, the work ethic, the effort which they put in, I think these are valued and the process is important. For me, I would look at saying, okay, forget about what happens 3 days from now. I think look at what happens now. How are you going to maximize yourself? How is your training going to be? How are you going to be resting yourself? How are you going to plan your food around it and ensure that you push to the maximum and be smart about it? So I think these are the things which I would really look at, not look at what comes out in the future. I think across the board, if we are able to prioritize the process more than the result, I think the mental health and the pressures outside of sport are actually being taken care of. So I would really look at this when I have somebody come in. Are you giving your best? Are you understanding the sport? Are you realizing what it takes? Are you smart enough? And are you thinking out of the box? I think these are important things which I would love to see.
And that's how you define process. All right. This was a wonderfully insightful conversation. Gopi, thank you so much for joining us once again. Always lovely chatting with you.
Thank you.
We'll be back very soon. Thank you so much.